Are you ready to find out how to actually delegate? A really big mistake that I see all the time that a lot of business owners make is they start delegating things because they are either really burnt out and they just need it to be off of their plate, or they delegate the things that are actually essential for their business and actually ends up hurting themselves and the business and the person that they started to delegate this to. So I'm going to dive into the best practices for you when it comes to delegating and actually making it be something that works for you and your business. And this is coming from someone who runs an executive assistant company who has taught this to hundreds of our clients on how to delegate effectively to their executive assistant. Now, the first thing is, before you even delegate anything, is know your time. Know what you spend your time on in the day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, what that actually looks like. The first thing is just knowing what goes on in your life. Again, typically we start delegating because we're in pain, because we are just wanting to get this off of our heads. But a lot of the time you're delegating the wrong thing because you don't know what else you spend your time on that gets you to the point where you're overwhelmed, you're burnt out, and you're wanting to just give everything else to someone else. So when it comes to knowing your time, this could just be observing what are the things that you're doing in the daily, monthly, whether it's something that is ad hoc or something that's already scheduled. It's important for you to know your time, because then, of course, it's knowing the value of your time. For each client that you have, for each customer, for each kind of person who pays you in your business, what is the value of that versus you just focusing on running the business instead of growing the business. So for example, if you are charging $3,000 for your services every single month, but you're the one invoicing, you're the one sending the clients updates, you're the one making sure that the little things keep going, versus you being the one to go out and get more clients or make the systems better, make delivery better, you are, again, putting in a lot of your $3,000 a month into time that doesn't really matter in the long run, that actually hurts your clients, hurts your delivery, hurts your business. So again, know your time is the first one. This could also be something that you can actually give to someone else or delegate to an executive assistant. It's just having them ask you like, hey, what are you doing now? What are you doing now? It can be very annoying, but honestly, it's one of the things where the awareness of what you spend your time on is going to change everything else. Next is what I'm calling a goals first breakdown. Is before you delegate anything to everyone, is know what your goals are. Why did you start the business in the first place? What are the 3-year goal, 1-year goal, quarterly goals? What does actually look like, and how does the things that you're spending your time on relate to it? A lot of the time we end up with doing a lot of the busy work. We end up doing just things that come to our attention and just get it done, even though it doesn't actually relate to where you want to go. So having a goals first breakdown of where your life is at and where you're going and what you're trying to do is going to be another reflection exercise that you need to do before you even start delegating. Next is, now that you have what you spend a lot of your time on, now that you have the goals that you have for yourself, for your business, then it's actually going into doing a little bit of an 80-20 assessment on yourself. This is a process that I basically run with our clients in the very first place, where we go through what they've been doing in a day and then walking us through what are the key things that only they can do within their business, and they can start thinking of delegating the rest. So for example, for our clients who do a lot of consulting or they have programs, the main thing that they can't delegate for sure is creating the content and going ahead and actually showing up for the client calls. The rest, the billing, responding to clients through emails or through chat, or responding to social media posts or creating social media posts. These are now the 80% of things that still need to get done within the business, but again, doesn't have to be necessarily done by them. So doing a little bit of this exercise of going through, now that you have the awareness of what you're doing in a day, week, month, actually looking at what are the key things that only I can do as the business owner, and then starting to think of like, these are things that I want to delegate. Now you have that. The next step is to start thinking of your tasks and outcomes, and then start to delegate those outcomes. So instead of telling your assistant or the person that you're hiring of like, can you make sure that my email is managed, you're switching the language to, can you make sure that important emails are responded to, and if there's anything that you can't respond to, making sure that I see them. Otherwise, I want to see an inbox 0. So it's making sure that you are clear on what the outcomes of the tasks that you're working on, and if you can, relating those outcomes to the goals that you have set, of why this matters, of how everything else is affected by this outcome, and essentially just walking them through of like, this is what this task is for. Which brings me to the WOW delegation method, which is basically when you're delegating anything to your person, your assistant, whoever it is you give them the why this is a thing. The why basically is just the context for this task. Again, it could relate to the outcome, it could relate to the goal, it could relate to, hey, this is now on fire, this is why this needs to happen. The O is the outcome. Like, what is the ultimate outcome for this? What does this look like when it's actually done? That's the O in the WOW method. And the last W is the who and the what, which is basically any other resources that they would need to be able to achieve or make sure that this actually gets done. Next thing is you want to keep in mind that the more you give context, the more that you give them background on things, the easier it is for that someone to be able to take over, to know when to make decisions, to actually be more proactive and take initiative, because they know what to be proactive and take initiative on. I hear this from a lot of clients all the time of like, oh, I want an executive assistant who's proactive or like knows things before me. I'm like, yes, but you need to give them the context so they know what to be proactive on or where to take initiative. Next is as you start delegating, as you start working with your person, then it's making sure that you create a routine so you don't have to micromanage. So what this means is, for example, for me, I have a daily meeting with my assistant every single day. And it's usually sometimes could be just 10 minutes of us going through what needs to get done for the day. It could be as long as 30 to 45 to even an hour if we are working together on a project. This way, I don't have to feel that I have to keep following up with my assistant, and my assistant doesn't have to feel like they have to keep updating me on what's going on as it happens, and basically just gives me a summary of it during our daily call. We also have a weekly call where we go through what happened in the last week. Same thing on the monthly side. So we're always kind of having these syncs where I don't have to feel the need to follow up with her. She doesn't have to feel the need to keep updating me. Basically, things can keep flowing and growing until the next meeting. Next is have the mindset of consulting instead of coaching. So what this means is when you are delegating something to your assistant, to your person, someone in your team, you're thinking of it as you are consulting them on it instead of coaching them through how to be able to do it. So you have the WOW delegation method of walking them through that, but you're also keeping in mind that as they become better and better at what it is that they do, the less that they would need a lot of your direction and more of that they just basically just need to just check-ins once in a while, but it doesn't have to be the need. However, if you give them a new task that they've never done before or something new that they are having them take over, you have to go through back into that consulting mode of making sure that they have the context, they have what they need as they keep going. A few of the resources that I love for this is reading books like The 5 Levels of Delegation or The 1 Minute Manager, where you see essentially that just because this person has been with you for 2 to 3 years, if you give them something new, a new responsibility, doesn't mean that they'll just take it basically just because you've been telling them what to do this whole time. They will need back essentially again that consultation. That's why when you're consulting someone, especially when something new, there's a lot of direction, there's a lot of like attention to it, and then they'll get to the point where they now are confident and they know what to do. But every single time again that you add something into their to-do or their responsibilities, it goes back to that need essentially for more back and forth, more feedback, more just delegation of making sure that they have the clear picture of what they're supposed to be doing and what they're supposed to be working on. Next is making sure that you do review the results, not just the effort. Is you're not looking at like, oh, it took them 10 hours to do this research project that should have just taken them 2 hours. Look at the results of what they've done. If it was even done to the point where it is correct, and basically just then going back like, hey, what was your process here? What was your thought process here? Why did it take this long to be able for you to do this task? It's going through the process of giving them feedback and redirecting them as needed, or giving them praise like, hey, you did this 2-hour research project in an hour. Like, how were you able to do that? So then for you, you're again in that consulting mode, you're breaking down the things that they were able to do. So that's easier for them to know and make decisions moving forward because you were able to, again, review the results, go through their effort, and then give them feedback on how they can do better or how they can keep doing better for the next time. And finally, make sure that you're creating your own delegation system. Now, different people will have different delegation systems. Some people would want to delegate things through their phone, through Slack, through Zoom. Different people will have different cadence depending on the different phase of their life. You know, if you already have your delegation system where you text them something because you want to give them a new task, but you're in a networking event and you can't really text them, but you can send them voice notes, making sure that there's a flexibility. But the key thing that I want you to keep in mind is making sure that there is a way to capture, to process, and then make it into an SOP or a standard operating procedure later. And this is one thing that I always encourage a lot of our clients to do, as well as their EAs know how to be able to do this, of processing of whenever they receive a new task, as they go through that whole process that I just talked about, then making sure that there is a documentation of how to do this moving forward. That way it doesn't have to feel that you're repeating yourself. It doesn't have to feel that you are giving them the same thing over and over again, because there is a process to review. There is a process to look at as well. Delegating and working with your team doesn't have to be this big headache. It doesn't have to be this thing that you feel like you have to dumb things down for them. As long as you put, and yes, in the beginning, it is going to take a lot of your time to train someone within your head. And yes, you can think like, oh, I can just do this myself. It'll be faster if I do this myself. But the reality is you don't want to do it by yourself. You don't want to keep doing this by yourself ongoing as you scale and grow your business, because that's how you've gotten stuck here and you want to get here. For you to get here and not get stuck here, you need to start delegating. Now, if you guys like this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button right there. Comment below if you have any questions when it comes to delegation. I would love to answer them. And if you still haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of our videos every Thursday on how to grow your business, especially with AI and outsourcing. And if you have your own assistant and you want them to learn more, they can check out my main channel here, and you can check out the latest video right here. Hope you guys have an amazing day, and where that small steps matter. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye!